When it comes to self-development, no matter the method you use, the vital point is to practice. If you're ready to transform your life and claim the potential inside of you, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to The Vital Point. I'm your host, Jonathan Schecter. As a breathwork facilitator and integrative specialist, I'm invested in making the dynamic landscape of personal evolution accessible. My goal is to inspire you to take action for yourself. You have the capacity to evolve and bring your intentions and dreams into the world, and there's never been more access to so many incredible modalities that can help you on your journey. This podcast will help you learn simple methods you can use to transform your life and share the stories of practitioners who are doing the work so that you feel inspired to go and practice, because that's the vital point. If you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star review. Follow on whatever platform you like to consume the podcast on. Leaving a 5-star review is an easy, free way to support the show and help more people discover these simple, life-changing practices. You know, a couple episodes back, I shared that one of the things that I'm noticing coming back to podcasting after taking a short break is just how darn inspiring it is to talk to the guests on the show, to talk to people in the fields that I'm interested in, things like meditation and psychedelics and breath work. But people that are in the fields that are thought leaders, that are out there doing the work, you know, out there getting their hands dirty. And this episode, this interview with Amanda Gilbert is a prime example of that. Amanda is somebody that I've followed on social media for a long time. I really appreciated her approach to meditation and her content. So I was really excited to get to sit down and talk with Amanda, and so excited to finally share this one with you. I've been hanging on to this one for a while. So thank you, Amanda, for your patience in getting this out. A little bit about Amanda, if you're not familiar with her. Amanda Gilbert is a meditation teacher, speaker, recent lecturer of mindfulness at the University of Southern California, and the author of Kindness Now, a 28-day guide to living with authenticity, intention, and compassion. Before dedicating herself to teaching full-time, Amanda was Center Director for the Aging, Metabolism, and Emotion Center at the University of California, San Francisco, conducting clinical research and publishing investigations on the biological and psychological effects of mindfulness and meditation. Super cool stuff. Her formal meditation training has been with UCLA's Mindful Awareness Research Center in primordial sound meditation with Deepak Chopra, and within the Insight meditation tradition at Insight LA. Amanda's teachings span from coast to coast in the US as well as online. She's led meditations for top companies and startups like NBC, Paramount Pictures, the W Hotels, Merrill Lynch, Macy's, and YouTube. And I gotta say, this is the episode that you want to listen to if you are new to meditation, if you've been curious about meditation. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but sometimes when I'm talking to meditation teachers and practitioners, I have a tendency to go into the deep end. We might mention a lot of terms that are, fairly heady, or, that you might not be familiar with if you're not familiar with meditation, or, just really get into the weeds of the practice. And it's something that's a challenge for me not to do. I have been doing this practice for a long time. It's the first thing that I really started to do on my own to transform my life. And, I'm just so grateful to be teaching and sharing this practice with others. So all that to say that if you're new to the practice, I think that this conversation is very approachable. It is just so jammed full of good, juicy information and things that I really hope inspire you, and not only inspire you, but the conversation basically opens with a meditation practice that Amanda leads that you can bookmark and come back to whenever you need it. So definitely recommend following Amanda, checking out her book, The conversation is just really, really approachable. And at the same time, we go into so many juicy parts of the meditation practice itself. One of the questions that I've really been loving asking different meditation teachers is, what's the number one question that you get from students? And so I really loved Amanda's answer. I really loved how sometimes she would take what I said and almost translate it into a little bit more accessibility. So we really sort of met each other, on the cushion, so to speak, and then was able to metabolize that into this incredible conversation that I know you're going to enjoy. Okay, Amanda Gilbert, welcome to the Vital Point podcast. I'm so grateful that you are here joining us.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, and since we both are mindfulness practitioners, it seemed like a great place to begin just to maybe start with a quick practice, if that's okay with you.
I could not agree more. I always like beginning with practice, especially at the start of a wonderful and in-depth conversation like we'll be arriving to in just a few moments here. So practicing sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to offer maybe just a short guided practice where we can really gather our attention into this present moment and into the breath, into the body. And I always find that any moments of grounding in our life, in the greater context of our lives, really lets us more deeply connect to our truth, our voices, our clarity, our self awareness, and we can let the conversation flow from there, if that sounds good.
absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. So let's all just take a couple of moments here to allow ourselves to find our way to a most comfortable posture and position. And also knowing that if you are newer to meditation, if you're listening right now and are newer to the practice, to not worry about a thing, as I'll be guiding us through the entire time. And so, taking a few moments here again, just to allow the body to start to find its way to a state of comfort and to a state of ease. Maybe today this means rolling the shoulders back a couple of times, or even allowing the neck to stretch side to side. And then, when you are ready, inviting in any additional adjustments in the body to feel most comfortable and most at ease. And then, if you'd like, allowing the eyes to gently close. Also, knowing that you can practice with the eyes open at any time if that's more comfortable for you. And whether the eyes are open or closed, now just gently beginning to turn your attention inward. Even allowing yourself to land here in the body and in this present moment, right here in the middle of the day. And then gently beginning to sense the body sitting and resting exactly as it is. Maybe you are seated in a chair or upon a cushion, maybe a bench, any kind of seat or surface. Or perhaps you're even out in the world, maybe even walking, standing, or even sitting outside. Wherever you are and however you are, begin to gather your attention to the sensation of the body sitting or standing exactly as it is. Sensing the ground and the earth beneath your 2 feet. And sensing the seat beneath your 2 sitting bones, if you are sitting. And as you grow your awareness of sitting in the body here, begin to notice where else in the body you can perhaps to invite to soften a little bit more. Maybe even for a moment, you can invite the facial muscles to soften, or invite in a sense of ease into the shoulders. Noticing if they can even fall away from the ears and the earlobes a little bit more. So often they can. And then guiding attention into the arms and the hands, allowing awareness to even dance within the palms of the hands and each of the fingers and thumbs. Maybe noticing sensations of warmth or coolness, or even tingling sensations or pulses in the palms of the hands or the fingers or thumbs. Recognizing that moment to moment, we can open ourselves up to the direct sensation of simply sitting and resting here in the body. And then gently now beginning to guide awareness towards the back body, including the muscles in the upper back, the middle of the back, and the lower back. And then perhaps inviting the muscles in the abdomen to softly release. Sometimes here in the field of our practice, we can allow for a quality of letting go or surrendering to be present. What can you let go of to be here in this moment even more? And then bringing attention back again to the two sitting bones, perhaps feeling grounded and at ease here, sitting or being or standing in the body. And then sensing the upper and lower legs, and circling attention now to the ankles and the feet. Pausing here just for a moment to center your attention in the tops and bottoms of the 2 feet. Feeling perhaps firmly planted exactly where you are and as you are. And then, ever so gently and kindly now, beginning to gather your attention towards these sensations of just the breath in the body. So, moving attention from body awareness to breath awareness. And even if it's just for one breath or two breaths or a second or two, place your full attention upon this very inhale and exhale. Fully observing the rise and fall of the breath in the body. And sensing just this one breath in and just this one breath out. And recognizing any opportunity to gently invite your attention back to the breath, if and when it happens to wander away at any time. And now, if you'd like, inviting in a nice, long, deep breath into the body. And as you're ready, releasing this breath out. Pausing here to notice how it is you feel right now. Maybe you feel even 1% more centered, more grounded, more clear, more connected, or maybe even more aware of all the thoughts in the thinking mind. And whatever it is you're aware of, just offering a little bit of gratitude towards these qualities, these insights, and to definitely this time and practice here together. And then, as you feel ready, beginning to invite in some mindful movement into the body. Wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, maybe taking a few more deep breaths in and out of the body. And then, if the eyes have been closed, gently floating them open, nice and slowly. And allowing attention just to float outwards into the space around you. And giving yourself a couple of moments now to gather your attention back and even open up to this great conversation we are about to embark in.
Hmm. Thank you so much for that, Amanda. It's wonderful. I had a little internal giggle as you were saying, noticing if you feel more relaxed or if you're more aware of the thoughts in your mind. Because I was having both of those, at the same time. Like, yes, I want to relax into this beautiful practice. And I'm also really excited and I have questions and things that are coming up just as I'm noticing. It's so wonderful to listen to somebody else that's obviously very gifted and experienced at teaching meditation. It's like almost making some internal notes inside my head. I appreciate that.
Uh, yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And thanks for even mentioning that very normal experience of both like, oh yeah, I do want to feel a little more relaxed, or I am a little bit more relaxed. And also, I might be much more aware of all the things going on up inside this mind of mine. So thank you
Mm.
just for naming that right away.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe a good place to jump in because
Mm.
with your work, I'm sure you encounter a lot of folks that are new to meditation. Um, what's what are some common misconceptions that people have about meditation before they actually dive into the practice that you have to address in your work?
Yes. The number one top misconception that I run into and bump into the most in my classes and when teaching a variety of different students in different settings and to different audiences is the common misconception or misbelief that in order to be a good meditator or to have a good, successful meditation practice, that means we need to experience absolutely zero thoughts in the mind. So I often hear from people who are brand new to meditation or in the beginning stages of a meditation practice, something along the lines, Amanda, I've tried to meditate, but I haven't really become good at it yet because I keep thinking in meditation, or I find that I'm just really in this experience of thinking. And when I hear that, Jonathan, I actually almost internally like rejoice these days because
Mm.
it really gives me and others in our field the great opportunity to demystify that common misconception. Why? Because when our attention wanders away in meditation, which inevitably it will, that's really the underpinning of this misbelief is that we think our attention won't wander away at any time when we get good at meditation. And I'm always so happy to share that that couldn't be farther from the truth. That whether you are a 1 day old meditator or a 10-year plus meditator, you will always be navigating thoughts in the mind from time to time during your meditation practice. And the reason why I actually rejoice is because, especially in this time and in this age, when we become aware of our attention wandering away to the thinking mind, I actually think that's really cool and really amazing because, one, it gives us the opportunity to bring our attention back to the breath and back to the present moment and back to the body. So it gives us an opportunity to actually train the mind and practice our meditation practice. And number two, we can also start to increase our self awareness. We can say, oh, wow, like fascinating. I noticed that my attention was being pulled to that one pesky thought. And it's the same pesky thought that's been circling my mind for the last 10 minutes. Fascinating. Well, what is this thought? And I often encourage people to not get too wrapped up in the labeling or the discernment or the understanding of exactly the sorts of thoughts that we have in our mind. But even initially, especially at the starting stages of a meditation practice, just that pop of like insight, that pop of awareness that says, wow, this is the same thought about planning the rest of my weekend that I've noticed come up 5 times in the last 5 minutes.
Mm.
Got it. And with that labeling, with that awareness, we can actually say, okay, let me really try to let that go just for now, and then bring my attention back to the breath and begin again. So, thoughts do a couple of things in our meditation practice. One, they give us the miraculous opportunity to bring our attention back and begin again to really practice our meditation. And two, it also helps us get to know ourselves so much more. It helps It helps us to understand what is really happening inside this complex, amazing, intricate, messy human mind and emotional body and heart of ours, moment to moment. So that's the most common misconception I bump into about meditation. And I'm always delighted to hear it because I think it's helpful to dismantle that a little bit and to actually give people this invitation to think about meditation in a different way and in a way that I think is very reflective of the traditional practice.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. And now I don't feel so odd that that's also, a pretty common question that I get from people that are new to the practice. And um I love the enthusiasm and joy that you have, because it's a very it can be a really powerful teaching moment, right? That the practice is in that noticing. It's not, okay, did I completely clear the room, and there's a completely empty room inside of me. But it's just that noticing and that awareness. And like you said, building that self-awareness of what's happening inside. It's such a powerful thing.
So much. Yes, and I find that especially as modern day people, even in the very like first 20 minutes of a meditation practice that somebody's going through ever, if we just offer that kind of view and that kind of framework, like, hey, thoughts are actually a great vehicle for insight and awareness and understanding. I really find that it sort of opens up and loosens up the initial pressure we might feel to like get the meditation practice right. Is that simple reframe and really that genuine understanding, like, oh, thoughts, they don't have to be labeled as bad in practice. They can actually be quite useful, quite helpful in having greater self-understanding.
Mm, yeah. And I think you're also touching on a really important point as well, in terms of just being able to maybe let go of some of our expectations for the practice of getting somewhere or accomplishing something, um, just for the sheer beauty of being able to sit and practice, and as the Zen tradition would say, like, have that beginner's mind, or abandoning the hope of fruition, from a more Tibetan sort of
Mm.
perspective, right? There's always these clues kind of pointing us at, hey, just watch that story that's going on, watch that desire to be getting somewhere or getting something out of the practice, instead of just being right here right now with whatever is.
Jonathan, yes. Thank you so much for pointing us to the other very common misconception or misbelief that we have in today's world about meditation practice, which is if we do feel like there isn't instantaneous gratification, if we feel like we're not getting something, if we're not seeing the results right away or quick enough through our practice, then we also think that there's something wrong or that we're not doing the practice right. I think one of the greatest um, areas of support that our meditation practice can offer us in today's world is this deep connection to understand what is it like to slow down? What is it like to get comfortable with non-doing, not having to be in constant activity, constant motion, or even be in the constant attachment to the narrative of thinking that many of us have going on constantly in the mind. That sort of chitter chatter or that self narration that's talking our way through our life and our daily experience, moment to moment, hour to hour, text to text, meeting to meeting. What is it even like to disengage from that level of activity? And our meditation practice does give us this golden opportunity to become more comfortable with non doing and to also realize the immense value in non-doing or just simply being? Like you said, what is it like to rest in beginner's mind, and what is it like to let go of all this expectation, all this pressure, all these ideas that we have around what should I be experiencing in meditation, or what should my results from meditation be?
Hmm. Yeah. Could you speak a little bit more about that? Because I would imagine within your, I know you work with a lot of corporate type folks, right? So like sometimes maybe when we're thinking about a meditation practitioner or somebody that's like, I need to start a meditation practice, they might be sort of seeking that out or going to a meditation class, or maybe something that's offered at their yoga studio. They're seeking it out. But I would imagine with people in the corporate environment, they're very acclimated to that sort of way of being, in terms of just always doing, always being busy, being very goal oriented, or trying to climb the corporate ladder, and there's so many responsibilities and meetings and emails and all the things. So just maybe just expand on the value of being able to slow down and just be present, and how
Mm.
you explain that to the clients that you're working with in that context. I hope you're enjoying the episode. One of the ways that mindfulness meditation has been the most impactful to me is in my work with psychedelic integration and in the actual psychedelic experience itself. The ability to separate myself and my experience from my thoughts is something that is so valuable in so many different areas in life, including working with plant medicines and psychedelics. Especially if you're interested in working with psychedelics to create change and transformation in your own life. You really want to be able to hold that observer mind, to be present and not get carried away or experience like a whiteout when you are in an expanded state of consciousness. And mindfulness meditation is one of the key skills and resources that is going to enable you to do that. Mindfulness meditation is one of the foundations of my group breathwork and integration coaching container that is in the process of launching. It's called Elevate. It's an 8-week online program where we dive into all things breathwork to support your exploration of expanded states of consciousness. And we start with mindfulness. I'm so excited to bring this one to you. It's really a distillation of the coaching that I've been doing one-on-one for the last couple of years. And to be able to put it in a group setting where we're all holding each other accountable and learning together, and to be able to witness the growth of my students and see them really get it and coming alive as they get it, especially the meditation piece. After the first week, some of them came back and they were really struggling and really feeling a lot of resistance towards the meditation practice itself. And I just, I understand. I've been there myself. I've helped many people over that initial hump. And so I just encourage them to stay with it, to notice that resistance as a part of the meditation practice itself, not as a indication that they were doing something wrong. And then watching them come back over the next couple of weeks going, oh yeah, I feel like I'm getting it. I feel like I'm noticing how that resistance is just another thought. We're in the process of launching this. We're capping each cohort at 10 people so that it can continue to be an intimate gathering where we're safe to be vulnerable and to share what's in our heart, as well as to support each other as we dive into the deeper waters of psychedelic integration. So if you are interested in that and learning mindfulness as well as other breathwork practices to support your own inner growth and transformation, then please go to bluemagicelevate.com/elevate. Again, that's bluemagicelevate.com/elevate to learn more about the program and to set up a call. I can't wait to embark on this journey with you. Expand on the value of being able to slow down and just be present, and how you explain that to the clients that you're working with in that context.
Yes. Yes, thanks for bringing that in. Mindfulness in the workplace is a whole different terrain as a meditation teacher. And I share a lot about this in my modern meditation teacher training, where as a trainee and a developing teacher, we explore what is it like to teach meditation and guide people in meditation based on the different settings that you're meeting them in and that you're guiding them in. When it comes to meditation in the workplace and corporate meditation, it's important to consider a couple of things. Like you mentioned, people are in that activity mode. That's where you're really meeting them at, whether you're hosting the meditation for the team or for the entire workplace in the morning, at lunchtime, or towards the end of the day. Everyone there has already stepped into activity mode. They're already thinking about their laundry list of things to do for the day. They're probably already connected to their devices. They're already mentally running through their to-do list or all the communications they have to get to. And so, as a meditation teacher, it's important to consider a couple of things. It's important to consider that one of our number one responsibilities in being a modern meditation teacher is meeting people where they are at. Really being able to attune to the students, to the clients, to the groups, like energy of the moment, or just to realize like this is where they're at in their day. It's lunchtime on a Monday. All right, like I can imagine being in their shoes. This is like the mental and emotional and physical landscape that they may be navigating and going through. So, therefore, we can do a couple of things. We can actually really point to what we were just speaking about, which is to not have the huge expectation that that 30-minute meditation class or that 20-minute guided meditation in the workplace is maybe going to offer them the immense relief that they might be thinking that they will receive from a meditation practice. When it comes to mindfulness in the workplace, I'm a big advocate of even saying if you feel anywhere from 1 to 5% more calm, 1% more at ease, 1% just more grounded in your overall sense of being right now, that's a big win, people. That's a big win in the meditation world. And to realize that even if we are able to bring our attention to just one breath, rising and falling in the body, there is immense healthfulness in that one experience of that one breath, especially when it comes to the mind. So in corporate meditation, I actually really try to highlight the small wins. I try to reorient people's idea around getting like a big experience or some big effect or impact in meditation. And I try to actually really, like you mentioned, highlight how important it is to slow down and to highlight that any moment of centeredness or calmness or peace that they might feel in that meditation class or practice is immensely helpful. Like that's it. That's what we're going for, is even just that one split second of like, I feel 5 to 10% better.
Yeah. I love what you just said, because uh, like, yes, it's so beneficial to have an official quote unquote practice, right? Where we're getting up in the morning and sitting down, and or whenever we're doing it during the day, and you know, bracketing this time for us. But within the rest of our day, right? And for a lot of us, that means, you know, we're working somewhere, we're in an office, or we're at home, we're in this working environment where we're not necessarily, you know, having the traditional idea of meditation, but there's so many opportunities to bring that mindful awareness and that presence in, you know, like It could be when you get that notification for an email or your phone rings, just taking a moment and taking a couple of breaths and like recentering yourself, like just becoming aware of the breath and the body before you jump into, okay, I got to answer the call or I have to look at that email. It's almost like these are all invitations to become more mindful and more alive and aware within our practice.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. I love that you just brought that in because meditation practice itself is a training ground to actually grow our qualities of mindfulness and patience and compassion and generosity and grace and kindness. So, one of the distinctions I love to make with students who meditate with me is that meditation and mindfulness or mindfulness in daily life, they're two different practices. They're two different ball games.
Mm.
Meditation, like we've been describing, is the training of attention, learning to really stabilize the mind in the present moment. And inevitably, when we practice meditation, we will be opening up beautiful, wholesome qualities of the mind and the heart. We will learn to be less judgmental towards ourselves and towards the thinking mind. We will encounter moments of peace, moments of self-kindness, moments of self-compassion in meditation. But we're really in this act of training when we're meditating for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. Whereas mindfulness and our daily life practice is the incredible landscape and opportunity where we get to engage with these same qualities of presence, of even focus, having our attention fully in one conversation or one communication at a time, where we get to invite in qualities of kindness, compassion, more patience, etc., moment to moment in our lives, regardless of what we're doing. And it's quite humbling, mindfulness in daily life practice, because as a meditator, especially as one gets really going with their meditation practice, sometimes we might think like, oh my gosh, my reactivity has lessened. I'm feeling more calm overall and handling my life and my stress better. And then, just kind of one day out of the blue, maybe we're a little like running on empty, or we didn't sleep enough the night before, or we had a difficult conversation pop up that morning, and we all of a sudden find like, oh, whoops, I didn't really handle that email or that conversation very well. Oh, whoops. I could have been a little kinder and more and more understanding with my friend or that person or that colleague of mine. And I find that it's even in the moments of retrospection that we're in reflection of like, whoa, I probably could have brought more presence, more mindfulness, more kindness, more compassion to whatever it is we were doing. That's when the practice is also really helpful, is in the retrospection, like, oh, you know what? Next time, or maybe even right now, I'm going to really recommit to being more present or being more kind and more patient, for the rest of the day. The beauty of mindfulness in daily life practice, and of course, we learn this in our actual meditation practice, is that we can always begin again as many times as we need to. We can always start over. We can always begin again. In many ways, I like to think about like our practice, really as this radical opportunity as modern day human beings to get so freaking comfortable with beginning again.
Yeah.
What is it like to just get really good at that?
Yeah, we could all use some of that for sure. I've been toying with this idea or just this like maybe a way of explaining meditation to people in a different way lately, of sort of just like what you're saying. Like instead of saying to someone, okay, we're going to practice now for 20 minutes, like we're going to take one breath for the next 20 minutes. Like, even though that's such a subtle shift, but within the context of meditation, like, and you could even deconstruct that even more, like say, okay, well, if we're thinking about maybe taking 10 breaths a minute, right?
Mm,
Um, Going from we're going to practice for 20 minutes to we're going to take 200 breaths.
Mm,
to no, we're going to take one breath until the bell rings, or for
mm,
20 minutes. It's like there is a little bit of a subtle shift there in terms of just letting go of like, okay, I can't wait for this 20 minutes to be done. To just, can I be with just this breath right now, and that's all I need to be with, is just be aware of my body, be aware of my breath, and just be present. And I'm always curious when I get done with my groups at the treatment center, because sometimes like I'll wait right up until before we start the practice, and then before I say this, I'm talking about, just as you start to practice, begin to just be aware of like the thoughts. You can almost watch them like a movie or something, right? And I say like,
mm,
well, I'll wait right before we start to say, and we're going to practice for 20 minutes. And so it's almost like a joke of like, so the first thing that you might notice is, what is your reaction to hearing that we're going to practice for 20 minutes? Are you sitting there going, oh my God, this is going to be the longest 20 minutes of my life? What did I get into? Why did like, I need to leave this group? Or, and
mm,
I will always notice that at the end too. I'll say, how was that for you? And one person's like, oh my gosh, that was excruciating. I could barely sit still. I barely made it through. And then the next person's like, wow, I feel so much more relaxed. That flew by, So it's almost like there's some wonderful lessons that I've gotten from my meditation practice. And I like to point out when it's appropriate that through our practice, we start to see how each of us is living in our own experience and our own reality, based on those thoughts and the things that are happening within the body and our awareness. And it's less of a objective experience and more like we're all having these subjective uh, experiences together.
I really like that insight, Jonathan. I think it's powerful for people to sort of sink into that, for a moment, especially if it's the first time they've maybe even thought of that or considered that. Like, wow, I might be living my life through my own perceptions and my own mental and emotional conditioning and my own mental and emotional experience. Wow, what is truth? What is the truth of reality versus my reality? And I think our meditation practices and mindfulness practices very specifically are immensely helpful in starting to be able to help us tease out what is perception, what is opinion, what are we experiencing through the lens of our conditioning perhaps, versus what is actually really and rawly and just truly happening in the present moment. Just like you mentioned, I often like to provide like a visual for a lot of my students when we talk about this very topic, which is I will kind of make like a fist out of the ball of my hand, and then I'll say, okay, if this is what I'll point to the fist and I'll say, if this is what's happening in the present moment, if this is really just what's happening, then the mind likes to go ahead and like layer opinion and thought, and then another opinion and another perception. And then I like that, I didn't like that, our preferences, our perceptions, our opinions. And soon the other hand is like growing farther and farther and farther and farther away from what just actually happened in the present moment. And you can actually visually see the space between what we might think is happening versus what actually happened just through all of those layers and all of that conditioning and perception of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when people really sit with that, it can be very helpful and very illuminating. And I'm curious, like, what do you offer to your clients or your students as like here's what's next, guys. I know I just landed like a really big, insight or consideration for you. And here's what we might do about it. Where do you go next with your groups?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I love the visual of the layers building on each other. Um, yeah, because a lot of the people I'm working with, they may have been discovering mindfulness or meditation for the first time. For some of
Mm,
them, for some of them, just sitting for a few minutes is too overwhelming, you know, and uh, I really get excited when we get done and, you know, just them looking around and like, wow, you did that, you know, like, especially when I sort of drop that little bomb right before we start of, oh, by the way, we're going to be practicing for 20 minutes. Just notice what you think, you know, what's coming up for you as
mm,
that. Um, I think one thing that's important to my instruction, or that I feel like is alive to me right now, is um, and especially in the context of what you just shared, is practicing gentleness with ourselves, you know, about those layers, right? Because, like you mentioned, as those layers build, there tends to be these judgments and maybe shame or guilt around, like, I'm not doing this right. I can't even focus on my breath. I can't even sit still. You know, all these little sort of criticisms or judgments. And so just noticing those and noticing like how we're building those layers on, and then being gentle with ourselves, you know, just saying like, hey, this is an opportunity to notice that those judgments or those criticisms are just another thought that we're able to let go of. And the other thing is just to encourage the consistency, you know, like it's one thing to have this one experience, but like you said, like uh, being able to sort of let go of maybe an expectation of an outcome for that one session, right? But also just keeping in mind that with consistency, you will start to see some changes, you know? But it's almost like going to like a personal trainer and saying, give me the workout today that's going to give me 6 months worth of, you know,
mm,
gains, right? Like it doesn't work. They're not going to have anything for you. But with that consistent, you know, practice, you will start to notice. And, so yeah, for me, it's just really gratifying to have people come back and say like, "Wow, I've been practicing this, and I've noticed that it's helped." You know.
mm. Yes, yes. And I often think around, what creates consistency. I offer what can be helpful with consistency in the formation of the habit of meditation with my students and, with my trainees and my audiences. And I could not agree more with you, Jonathan, that I think one of the main ingredients to creating a consistent practice or a consistent habit of meditation or mindful living is the quality of gentleness. Or to me, gentleness is also a quality that can be umbrellaed under the heart practices of mindfulness meditation
Mm,
that I feel, especially in today's world and modern meditation, really in modern mindfulness, that if we don't introduce kindness, if we don't practice compassion, if we aren't gentle and patient and kind with ourselves as we are meditating, as we are experiencing self judgment, as we are quote unquote succeeding or failing at our meditation practice or fumbling through a 20-minute set, if we're not connected to even a baseline quality of kindness, then our meditation practice will really only go so far. And it's one of the many reasons why I actually wrote my book, Kindness Now, on the heart practices of mindfulness meditation or the Brahma Viharas of Buddhism. the four qualities or energies of love, the four qualities of the heart, the four limitless qualities being loving kindness meditation, compassion meditation, appreciative joy, which is the rejoicing for other people's happiness and success, and the rejoicing of our own happiness and success. And then the fourth heart quality of equanimity. So if we are not, in a sense, inviting in a quality of softness, gentleness, or these four heart qualities as we're training the mind, as we're growing our capacity to be in the present moment, both in meditation and in daily life, then we're really setting ourselves up for a much more difficult meditation experience than we
Mm.
would if we weren't inviting in kindness along the way. And especially when it comes to consistency, I do think, to your point, gentleness and heartfulness is absolutely necessary because as human beings, we are pleasure seeking creatures, right? We like to feel good. Nobody likes to feel bad. And if we feel like we're in this experience of judging ourselves or berating ourselves for maybe not meditating as much as we want to, as consistently as we want to, then eventually we probably won't want to do the practice at all. That's
Right.
it's a pretty extreme place to get to, but that's why, like these days, the past many years of my work and my practice and my teaching has been really, really centered on bringing in the heart. We really, I think, have a call as modern day meditators to really focus on the heart practices as much as the mindfulness and the mind practices.
Mm. Yeah, I think without the heart, it could almost become like a bypass or a way
Mm,
to be disembodied or disconnected from our experience rather than that embodied, sort of present quality that we've been talking about.
yes,
Mm.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you spoke to another sort of key for me in my work in terms of common misconceptions, which is just encouraging people. You don't have to try to make yourself sit there for 30 minutes at the beginning. What would be wrong with doing 4 or 5 minute practices during the day, or starting where you are? Like it's going to be so much easier to begin with where you are, even if that's I'm going to get up every morning and meditate for 2 minutes and do that consistently until I naturally want to do 5 minutes or 10 minutes and build on that, rather than I have to make myself sit here for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it is. Sometimes I feel like people have this misconception of uh, like an idea in their mind that they have to sort of embody or become to be quote unquote a meditator or have a meditation practice, instead of just working with what we have and where we are in this present moment. And if that means it's
Mm,
challenging to sit still for more than 5 minutes, great. Like start with 5 minutes and like let your
mm,
practice bloom from there, right? Like sometimes we take
yeah.
fully grown plants and we transplant them into a different pot. And sometimes we start with seeds and just start to water them. And you might not even see anything growing for a while, even though there's stuff happening underneath the ground that we're not aware of.
Yes, so much, so much. And I also really encourage people to not undermine the value of like 1 to 2 minutes of meditation,
Yeah.
to your point, to start with. That starting small is actually a very savvy and strategic way to grow a meditation practice, yes, but to also grow the momentum of mindfulness, as I like to call it, because what we know through clinical research and also just what we know through our subjective direct experience, the more that we meditate, is the more time we spend in practice, especially when we do start even just 1 to 2 minutes a day, less than 5 minutes a day, but we're committed to that. We're consistent with those 1 to 5 minutes of meditation a day for a period of time, for a couple of weeks, let's say, that momentum of even just those couple of minutes that grows in the mind and the heart. I mean, what we know
Right.
through research is that our ability to sustain our attention in the present moment starts to increase even after 4 days of meditation for brand new meditators. And then, I remember this very notable experience that I really learned this from as a teacher to a student of mine who was a CEO of a major global company. And they started to work with me because they had heard about the immense benefits of meditation. They're like, Oprah does it, Sir Richard Branson does it. All of these amazing peers and colleagues of mine that I look up to, they all meditate. So, you know what? I want to start meditating. And they contacted me to help them begin a meditation practice. So at the end of our first session, after we go through the what, the why, and the how of meditation, we went over how to meditate and then we meditated. The very end, I said, okay, great. Let's talk about your next steps. Let's talk about your plan for continuing your meditation practice and really growing your meditation practice. And they looked at me and I'll like never forget this moment. It was a look of like almost disbelief or deep concern in their eyes. And they said, wait, what? I have to, I have to do this again, or I have to do this consistently in order to get all of these benefits that we've been talking about this entire time. And I said, well, yes, like what we do know is that to get the benefits and the outcomes you're looking for, you do have to meditate consistently over a period of time. And then they flipped open their phone or brought their phone screen up to where I could see it, and they started scrolling through their calendar. And I have to admit, from what I could see in that moment, this individual was booked from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. every single day of the week. They were often on flights across the globe, across the country. And so in that moment, I really just said, well, what we know from especially the research is again, everything that you're looking for comes from consistent practice. However, why don't we start really, really small? Why don't we start exactly where we are? Why don't we see if you're able to meditate for even 1 to 3 minutes a day for the next week? And then we'll check in from there. So the next week comes about, our next session is there, and I just simply check in. I'm like, how did your practice go over the past week? They were really excited to share. They're like, Amanda, I've meditated for 3 minutes a day, every single day for the past week. What's next? I said, okay, great. Why don't we try to see how 5 minutes is or 6 minutes is? And we went for in that fashion for the next week. The next session comes about, and I just lightly check in. How's your meditation practice going? And they start to share with me, which grows, this response grows week by week. They start to say, I did meditate for 6 minutes this past week, but I really realized I actually had 8 minutes or 9 minutes. And then the next week, Amanda, I actually really have 15 minutes. So I was meditating for 15 minutes this week. Sure enough, 6 weeks later, this amazing individual had naturally bumped themselves up to 18 minutes of meditation a day, even without my direct like encouragement or explicit ask to get to 15 or 18 or 20 minutes of meditation. And what they said was that not only did they realize they actually did have more time than they initially thought during the day for their practice, but they found such value from it. They found such like goodness in those 5 minutes, those 3 minutes, those 6 minutes at first, that they actually wanted to meditate more. It was almost like once they got
Wow.
to like 8 or 10 minutes, it wasn't enough, and they wanted just to be in the practice longer. And I just really learned in that moment by observing this amazing brand new meditator who had a lot of responsibility in the world, and operated at just a really high executive working level professionally. I really learned through observing them that, yeah, that momentum of mindfulness is so real that the moment we really do give ourselves that genuine opportunity to practice for those 2 or 3 minutes at first, I really trust that the meditation will do its thing from there if we give it the real opportunity to do so.
Yeah, yeah, what a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, sometimes that's the best way, right? It's just having that experience, and then that creates that momentum of like, oh yeah, this is working. Um I'm curious if you had a moment like that early on in your practice where you like had that aha moment of, oh yes, this is really working, or I'm getting some sort of benefit that really inspired you to build your practice.
So much, so much. I actually have almost like this cliche movie moment around this when I really like had that aha moment in meditation, like this is really working and this is deeply benefiting me and supporting me. And just even briefly, it was about 6 to 9 months into my consistent daily meditation practice at that point, and I was living in the Bay Area of San Francisco, California at the time. I remember walking out the door in the morning after my meditation practice, my morning meditation practice. And I remember having like a ton of work bags in my hands, like a lunch bag, a work bag, maybe like keys, a couple of items, a coat, a jacket or some sort. And I was like fumbling with the keys and locking the door behind me, and turned around and started to walk a few steps towards the car to commute to work in the city over the Golden Gate Bridge because I was in Marin at the time. And I remember the cliche movie moment was just all of a sudden stopping, just feeling paused in my tracks, and I remember the weight of the bags just sort of taking over, and my shoulders dropped. I just sort of like let the bags sort of fall down towards my sides and start to rest against the ground beneath me. And I remember feeling the sun against my face and just the coolness of the Bay Area air in the morning. And I was startled. I was like, whoa, like, why am I stopping? I have to be at work. I was running clinical research on meditation at the time. I was like, what's going on here? I have places to be. Like this was almost like a break in the daily operations or the daily routine of like going out, getting to work, etc.
Yeah.
And what came up for me with just allowing myself to sort of be surprised and open to that moment of like what was happening, I realized that I had been feeling over the past weeks much more comfortable in my own body and in my own skin. My mind started to sort of just reflect upon these snapshots of work meetings recently where I was more confident in my voice, where I was speaking my opinions more and sharing my thoughts, and just feeling really for the first time in my adult life more authentic and more connected to my authenticity, just more comfortable and confident in who I was. And as a young 20-year-old woman at the time, it was notable. I hadn't felt that way since being like a really young little girl, just sort of playing in the woods growing up in Ohio, like that free and that connected to my authenticity. And in that moment, just kind of stopped there in my tracks. I realized that the reason why I was feeling much more confident and free to be me, much more comfortable in my skin and my body at the time, was because of my meditation practice, that I had been learning to rest and reside in my own genuine being and my true authenticity. And I had a deep moment of gratitude, just paused there mid stride to the car on the way to work in the morning. I had deep acknowledgement and gratitude that, wow, this meditation practice is doing something, something helpful
Mm.
and amazing is happening. And I had remembered too and realized that I'd been getting a lot of feedback from people recently in those last weeks that, Amanda, you do just seem much more much more calm and centered. You handled that really awkward moment in our work meeting with so much grace and so much compassion. So others in my life are starting to notice the difference in the way I was showing up. And that was, again, after about 6 to 9 months of consistent meditation practice and a daily meditation practice.
Beautiful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, I can relate a lot in that one of my first experiences was reading in a book about, the Buddha saying, don't believe anything that I'm saying because I'm quote unquote the Buddha. Don't believe anything that anybody says because of who you think they are. Go and try it out, the what I'm sharing with you, for yourself. And when you have that direct experience, when you notice it having an impact on you, it will inspire you to continue to practice. And for whatever reason, that particular quotation like really stuck out to me and was like, okay, well, I'm willing to give this a shot. And so yeah, like it's having that direct experience of like, oh yeah, something is happening here that has truly inspired me to continue to practice and share mindfulness with other people. And it's often what I encourage as well. It's just like, hey, just give it a chance. Like, it might not be the first time that you meditate that you notice this big shift, but just give it a shot, because you will start to notice. Share a little bit more about the modern teacher training, and like what that means to be a modern teacher, and maybe about how people can get involved with your wonderful training program.
Thank you, Jonathan. And also just thank you so much for sharing your insights on that beautiful teaching from the Buddha, the encouragement for self-investigation and to really get to know the practice through the lens of our own experience and our own mind and our own heart. And I'm happy to share, in a sense, that in the modern meditation teacher training, where we point our teachers to, where we encourage our trainees to start to source the material of their teachings, so to speak, is directly from their own personal practice. So, the modern meditation teacher training is a 5 month in depth deep dive in both the studies of the classical teachings of mindfulness meditation and the foundations of mindfulness meditation, but also a deep dive into the development of becoming a teacher, into the development of a teaching skill set designed for today's modern world. I love the modern meditation teacher training so much because, teachers are needed. As you and I both know in our field of work, the people that we guide, the people that we meditate with, um, they are deeply or in some way, even one in a small way, 1%, like we were talking about before, they are impacted by even those few minutes of time spent in meditation. And to be a meditation teacher in today's world, I think is one of the greatest like acts of livelihood that we can engage with, whether we are sharing meditation with our colleagues in our own workplace, whether we're sharing meditation with friends or neighbors or loved ones, or more professionally for audiences or different groups in different settings. To share meditation is needed in today's world, and therefore it's absolutely necessary to learn how to teach meditation in a applicable and impactful way for the modern world. So in the MMTT, or the Modern Meditation Teacher Training, we really guide our teachers to develop their own personal practice so they can be teaching from that palpable transmission of their own direct understanding of meditation and mindfulness and compassion and the heart practices. And then we're also really setting our teachers up to have deep understanding and competency in trauma informed mindfulness, in diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, and these ways to engage with people in different settings based on the different places and settings that you're teaching in. So the MMTT is divided into three amazing different modules, which I concepted over the past many years based on my uh, years of being a full-time meditation teacher, my own years of study and meditation teacher trainings, and my own personal practice of 18 plus years. But the three modules are one, really understanding the science and the basics and the fundamentals of mindfulness meditation. Two, developing your advanced skill set as a meditation teacher for the times that we're teaching in. And then three, taking both of those things, your personal practice development and your teaching skill set development, out into the world. So, module three is really designed to support people in creating a mindful livelihood or a mindful business, or understanding the ways that they authentically and uniquely want to be sharing meditation and teaching meditation in today's world. So the training is 200 hours. It is fully comprehensive. And I'm so happy and proud to say that our teachers have been coming out as graduates, at the end of our training, and they are hitting the ground running, teaching meditations in corporate work environments, in their workplace, at co-working spaces, in the middle of Central Park in New York City. They're doing online meditation series for like 5 weeks and 6 weeks courses and classes. They are really doing a phenomenal job of taking everything they learned in the training and then immediately applying it upon graduation and certification. So I'm deeply happy that the modern meditation teacher training is out there and available in the world. And for anyone who's thinking about becoming a meditation teacher or who wants the training to be a competent and credible meditation teacher in today's world, the MMTT is, it's really coming to be a top training in the meditation space. And I am so excited for it to continue to really support trainees and teachers in a variety of ways.
Mm. I'm so glad that you brought up, being able to make a mindful living and being able to support yourself with, teaching meditation. It's something I think is so common that I see in the space of people wanting to step into these more heart-centered gifts and yet feeling so frustrated by maybe the societal view that, if you're a meditation teacher you shouldn't be charging money, or like
Mm,
that somehow that makes you less spiritual or less enlightened, or and I think so many people struggle to kind of find their worth, and align that with what society says you're able to value and make money doing. And um, it's just such an important notion to shatter, that we
mm,
can thrive. And in fact, like, being successful and being able to charge your worth only makes you more capable of sharing those gifts and reaching more people and working with more people, and just being able to be in a calm and centered place yourself, right? Because that's an important thing about teaching meditation or anything that we're talking about, breath work or, these other integrative methods, is we have to do our own work. And, we
mm,
have to be doing our own practice as well. It's such an important thing. And, it's hard to think about coming to service when you're like looking at your bank account going, well, wait, how am I gonna how am I gonna eat today? So I really appreciate that your program brings that in. Such an important thing for us in our
mm,
modern society.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, thank you for bringing that in and highlighting that. And I too feel very strongly around supporting teachers and space holders and entrepreneurs, holding them with a lot of support in bravely creating the offerings that they know will deeply benefit people and the people that they're working with. So I'm glad that you brought that in, and it is so important to be in a community. The other thing I love about the modern meditation teacher training is once you step in, you're like with your people. You're with people who have the same desire to share the immense benefit of meditation in today's world. And you're with your people to like talk about these really challenging or sticky parts of developing a profession or a career or a practice, a teaching practice. So thank you for bringing that in, and I could not agree more.
Yeah, yeah. We'll put the information to link to the program on the show page. But if anybody's like, say, listening in their car right now or something like that, where should they go to connect with you or connect with the training?
You can find the training at the URL modernmeditation.training. Modernmeditation.training. You can find out all about it, the 3 modules, the amazing guest faculty who's also a part of the training and co-teaching alongside me. And then you can connect with me in a variety of different ways on different channels through either my website at amandagilbertmeditation.com or across all the social channels at Amanda Gilbert Meditation. And I always welcome comments or any messages or reach out. So please don't hesitate to email or message and say hi.
Amazing. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time and for the beautiful practice that you offered, and just for the insight and sharing your, wisdom and experience with the audience. I really, really feel grateful to have been able to spend some time with you here today.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me on your insightful and amazing show. It's an honor to be in conversation together and to be in practice together. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, or if you're watching it on YouTube, just subscribe to the show, leave us a review. And remember, just like we've been talking about throughout this episode, the vital point is to practice. So even if it's just a little bit of time, make that time, carve that out for yourself, even if it's just a minute or two to begin. And you'd be surprised about how that seed can continue to grow, just like Amanda was sharing with her client. So just keep practicing, everyone, because that's the vital point. I sincerely hope you found value and inspiration in this episode. If it struck a chord with you, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment and leave a review for the show. It's a simple, cost-free way to show support and help more like-minded people discover this amazing podcast. It's just how the algorithms work these days. Also, make sure that you sign up for my newsletter at bluemagicalchemy.com to be the first to get updates, exclusive content, and insights delivered straight to your inbox. It's a fantastic way to stay connected and keep the journey going. Also, when you sign up, you'll receive 3 weeks of free breathwork in my online breathwork community as a way to say thank you for your support. Thanks again to Amanda Gilbert for the amazing conversation. Make sure you check out her book, Kindness Now, a 28-day guide to living with authenticity, intention, and compassion. It is available wherever you find your books, or look her up on Instagram at Amanda Gilbert Meditation. She's also available on Facebook, Amanda Gilbert Meditation, and her website is amandagilbertmeditation.com. So make sure you check her out there. Remember, it's not about the method you choose or the pace at which you're traveling. The vital point is to consistently show up for yourself and practice. As the saying goes, it's not the destination, but the journey that truly matters. And I would be honored to accompany you on yours. Please don't hesitate to reach out, connect, share your journey, the successes and challenges alike. I'm just an email, DM, or review away. Let's journey, grow, and transform together. Thanks again so much for tuning in. Until the next episode, keep exploring, keep growing, and above all, keep practicing, because that's the vital point.